Right now, without any effort or attention from you, your body is quietly rebuilding the outer surface of the only organ you can actually see, roughly 20 square feet of it. About 8 pounds of living tissue wrapped around you from your scalp to the soles of your feet. Most people over 60 are told that skin gets thin, dry, and papery because of the calendar, and they simply accept it. That is only half of the story. Your skin does not thin only because you are getting older. It thins, in part, because nobody ever told you what to feed it, and every material it is built from has to arrive on a plate first. Before we go one step further, I want to be honest about the limits of everything that follows. If you have a sore that will not heal, a mole changing in shape, size, or color, bruising you cannot explain, or skin that changed suddenly, food is not the answer to that question. That belongs in front of your own doctor or dermatologist, and soon. Nothing here diagnoses anything, and I would rather you hear that at minute 1 than at minute 20. Start with the size of the thing. The Cleveland Clinic describes skin as the largest organ of the human body, around 20 square feet in an average adult, and roughly 8 pounds of it. It is not a wrapper. It is an organ with its own blood supply, nerve endings, immune cells, and repair schedule, and it renews its outer layer on a cycle measured in weeks, not years. The National Institute on Aging, part of the National Institutes of Health, describes what changes there with age in very plain language. The outer layer thins. The tissue loses elasticity. The fat layer underneath begins to shrink, which is why the backs of the hands start to look like paper, and why a light bump on a door frame now leaves a bruise where it once left nothing. Oil production slows, so dryness and itching arrive and settle in. Here is what almost nobody adds. Every one of those structures is assembled from protein, fat, water, minerals, and vitamins that your body cannot manufacture out of nothing. It has to take delivery. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has reported that only about 1 in 10 American adults eats enough vegetables in a day. 1 in 10. That is the supply line feeding the organ you look at in the mirror every single morning. I want to be straightforward with you. This program is educational. The voice you are hearing is AI-generated, and nothing in it is a diagnosis, a prescription, or a replacement for your own medical care. What it is the food half of a story most people over 60 are never given. 6 foods, numbered 6 down to 1. Stay with me through all 6, because the food at number 1 is a pairing that sits in most kitchens already and almost never gets eaten on the same day. Before number 6, leave a comment below with your age and the first quiet sign you noticed. Thinner hands, slower healing, more dryness. I read everyone. In just a moment, a code for my free book, The 90-Year Blueprint, will appear on your screen, and I want you to know what that book opens before it does. The 90-Year Blueprint is a companion book I put together for viewers in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, with the food, movement, and sleep basics written down in plain language, in a type size you can actually read. Scan that code with your phone camera, and the free book, The 90-Year Blueprint, opens straight away. There is nothing to buy and nothing to join. The book, The 90-Year Blueprint, is my gift to you. If the code has already gone by, the link to the 90-Year Blueprint sits in the description below under that same name. The code stays on screen long enough for you to reach for your phone. Before the countdown, hold 2 ideas in your head, because you will meet them again in every single food. The first is raw material. The structural proteins that give skin its thickness and its spring are built from amino acids that come from food, and forming them properly requires vitamin C as a cofactor for 2 enzymes, prolyl hydroxylase and lysyl hydroxylase. Without enough of that vitamin, the body cannot assemble normal, stable collagen. That is chemistry, not marketing. The second is fat. Every cell in that organ is wrapped in a membrane made partly of fatty acids you have to eat, and the protective carotenoid pigments in colorful plants are fat-soluble, which means they are barely absorbed at all unless fat shows up in the same meal. Raw material and fat. Those two ideas run underneath all 6 foods. And let me set expectations honestly. No food on this list removes a wrinkle, rebuilds what is already lost, or replaces anything your doctor is doing. What food does is supply what normal maintenance requires. That is a smaller promise, and it happens to be a true one. Number 6, red bell peppers. Start with the mechanism because it explains the rest. Vitamin C is not a general tonic here. It has one very specific job. It acts as the cofactor for prolyl hydroxylase and lysyl hydroxylase, the 2 enzymes that modify the collagen molecule so its triple helix locks into a stable rope instead of falling apart. When vitamin C runs short, that assembly step stalls. This is the same biochemistry behind the old sailor's disease, scurvy, where wounds stopped closing and old scars opened. Now the number. The National Institutes of Health Office of Dietary Supplements sets the recommended dietary allowance for vitamin C at 90 milligrams a day for adult men and 75 for adult women, with an extra 35 milligrams for people who smoke. In that same fact sheet, half a cup of raw red sweet pepper is listed at about 95 milligrams, more than a whole orange, in a food most people file under salad garnish. Why it matters for this organ in particular: skin holds one of the largest reservoirs of collagen in the body, and unlike most animals, humans cannot make vitamin C internally at all. Every milligram arrives by mouth or it does not arrive. Be clear about what this is and is not. Eating peppers does not rebuild collagen you have already lost, and it will not smooth a line on your face. It supplies the vitamin that normal collagen formation requires, so the ordinary maintenance your body already performs is not running short of a part. Here is how to add this to your plate. Half a cup sliced raw alongside lunch, that is roughly half a medium pepper, and it takes 30 seconds. Roast strips with olive oil and keep them in a jar in the refrigerator. Any color of sweet pepper works, and if fresh ones are dear where you shop, frozen sliced peppers keep for months and usually cost less. Chop a quarter of one into scrambled eggs, and keep some of it raw, because vitamin C is water-soluble and heat-sensitive, so long boiling leaves a good share of it behind in the water. Number 5, salmon or sardines. The mechanism first. 2 things travel in oily fish that matter here. The first is complete protein, the amino acid supply for every structural protein your body builds. The second is the long-chain omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, which are not simply burned for energy. They are inserted directly into the membranes that wrap every cell, and they serve as starting material for signaling compounds the body uses in its normal inflammatory response. There is a third thing worth naming: vitamin D. The National Institutes of Health Office of Dietary Supplements lists 3 ounces of cooked sockeye salmon at roughly 570 international units, one of the few genuinely rich food sources. That matters more after 60 than it did at 30, because the same office notes that older skin makes less vitamin D from sunlight than young skin does. As the organ thins, that particular factory slows, and the plate has to make up the difference. For how much? The Dietary Guidelines for Americans, published jointly by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health and Human Services, recommend at least 8 ounces of seafood a week for adults. That is 2 modest meals. A 3-ounce portion of cooked salmon carries roughly 20 grams of protein. What this is not: a treatment. Eating fish twice a week is a meal pattern, not a therapy for your skin, and no mirror is going to report back to you about it. Here is how to add this to your plate. 2 fish meals a week and canned counts. Canned salmon and sardines are inexpensive, shelf-stable, and require no cooking at all. Mash a tin with a fork, a squeeze of lemon, and a little olive oil, and put it on toast. If fresh fish feels out of reach, frozen fillets are usually the least expensive salmon in the store. They thaw overnight in the refrigerator and cook in about 10 minutes. If mercury concerns you, the Food and Drug Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency place both salmon and sardines in their best choices category, the lowest mercury group. Number 4. Eggs. Mechanism first, and this one is about parts and about a coenzyme. Egg protein contains all 9 essential amino acids, and among them are the ones that appear again and again in the body's structural proteins: glycine, proline, and lysine. Your body cannot build a protein it does not have the letters for. Alongside that, eggs carry riboflavin, vitamin B2, which the body converts into 2 coenzymes, FMN and FAD. Those sit inside ordinary energy metabolism, and one of them is required by glutathione reductase, the enzyme that keeps the body's own glutathione in its working form. The numbers from named sources. The National Institutes of Health Office of Dietary Supplements lists one large egg at about 0.2 milligrams of riboflavin, roughly 15% of the daily value, against a recommended intake of 1.3 milligrams for men and 1.1 for women. And the protein recommendation set by the national academies is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, about 55 grams a day for a 150-pound adult. One large egg supplies about 6 of those grams for about 70 calories. A boundary, because this is where the internet goes strange. I am not talking about high-dose biotin supplements for hair, skin, and nails. The Food and Drug Administration has issued a safety communication warning that high-dose biotin can interfere with laboratory tests, including the troponin test used when a heart attack is suspected. Food-level nutrition and megadose supplements are not the same conversation. Here is how to add this to your plate. 2 eggs at breakfast with those red pepper strips from number 6 chopped in covers a real share of the morning's protein in about 6 minutes. Hard boil half a dozen on Sunday so they are ready. Eggs also ask very little of your teeth or your appetite, which matters if either one has changed. Scrambled soft, they go down on a morning when nothing else appeals. And if your own clinician has given you a specific instruction about eggs, follow theirs, not mine. We are halfway, 3 foods behind us, 3 ahead, and the last one is the pairing I mentioned at the very start. If this has been useful so far, the most helpful thing you can do takes 2 seconds. Tap the like button, and if you are not subscribed, subscribe. That is the whole ask. This channel puts out one carefully sourced program a week for people over 60. Real institutions, real numbers, no miracle claims, nothing to sell you. Subscribing is what tells the platform to show the next one to someone your age who needs it. Then come right back, because number 3 is the food most people are already eating in the least useful form. Number 3, tomatoes, cooked with olive oil. Mechanism first, because the cooking and the oil are the entire point. Lycopene is a carotenoid, one of the fat-soluble plant pigments, and in a raw tomato, most of it sits locked inside plant cell walls. Heat breaks those walls down and releases it. Fat then carries it across the intestinal wall, because a fat-soluble compound arriving in a fat-free meal is poorly absorbed. Carotenoids that do get absorbed distribute into tissues throughout the body, including skin. Numbers. In the U.S. Department of Agriculture's food composition data, a raw tomato carries roughly 2.5 milligrams of lycopene per 100 grams, while tomato paste carries on the order of 10 times that in the same weight. Same plant, different preparation. That is why half a cup of plain tomato sauce is a far more concentrated source than a sliced tomato on a sandwich. Now, the boundary, and I want to be firm. This does not replace sun protection. The American Academy of Dermatology recommends a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher, water-resistant, along with shade and clothing. No tomato, no oil, and no supplement changes that recommendation, and I would be doing you a disservice to imply otherwise. Why olive oil specifically? Extra virgin olive oil brings monounsaturated fat for absorption, and it also contains oleocanthal, one of the phenolic compounds that gives fresh oil its peppery bite at the back of the throat. Here is how to add this to your plate. Half a cup of plain canned tomato sauce or crushed tomatoes warmed with a tablespoon of olive oil over pasta, beans, eggs, or fish. Choose the version with no added sugar. Canned tomatoes deserve a word of defense here. They are picked ripe, they cost very little, they keep for a year in the cupboard, and for this particular purpose, the cooked, concentrated form is the more useful one. Roast cherry tomatoes with oil until they burst, and keep them in the refrigerator for the week. Number 2, plain yogurt, or fortified soy yogurt. Mechanism first, and there are two running together. The first is protein again, the amino acid supply arriving in a form that needs no cooking, no chewing effort, and no planning, which matters more than it sounds when appetite gets smaller. The second is water. Skin is a tissue with high water content, and the national academies have estimated that roughly 20% of most people's total water intake arrives inside food rather than in a glass. Plain yogurt is about 85% water by weight. It hydrates and it feeds at the same time. The numbers. U.S. Department of Agriculture data put 1 cup of plain low-fat yogurt at about 12 grams of protein, with strained Greek-style yogurt closer to 20. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans set 3 cup equivalents of dairy a day for adults, and they explicitly count fortified soy beverages and soy yogurt in that same group, which matters for anyone avoiding dairy. Tolerance, honestly. Lactose intolerance becomes more common with age. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases notes that many people who cannot handle milk tolerate yogurt better because the live cultures help break lactose down. If yogurt still does not sit well with you, fortified soy yogurt is a reasonable swap, and neither one is compulsory. Here is how to add this to your plate. 1 cup of plain yogurt and add the sweetness yourself with fruit. Flavored tubs can carry more added sugar than dessert. Use it in place of sour cream on a baked potato, or stir in herbs and olive oil for a dip that turns raw pepper strips into an actual snack. Spreading protein across the day rather than loading it all into dinner is a sensible habit at any age, and a cup of yogurt at breakfast or in the evening is one of the easiest places to do it. Number 1, berries with walnuts. Together, in the same bowl. Here is why this humble pairing takes the top spot. Walnuts are the one common nut that is a serious source of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, an essential fatty acid, meaning your body cannot manufacture it and has no route to it except food. The National Institutes of Health Office of Dietary Supplements lists 1 ounce of English walnuts at about 2.6 grams of ALA. The adequate intake set by the national academies is 1.6 grams a day for men and 1.1 for women. 1 small handful clears it. The berries bring the other half. Half a cup of sliced strawberries is listed by that same office at roughly 49 milligrams of vitamin C, which loops straight back to number 6 and the collagen-forming enzymes that cannot work without it. Berries also carry anthocyanins, the pigment compounds behind that deep red and blue color, along with fiber that most adults are not getting enough of. The boundary. This is not an anti-aging bowl. Nothing on this list turns back a clock, and anyone promising you that is selling you something. What this pairing does is cover an essential fat, a required vitamin, and a variety of plant compounds in one small dish that takes no cooking at all. Here is how to add this to your plate. Half a cup of berries, a quarter cup of chopped walnuts, spooned on top of that yogurt from number 2. Frozen berries count. They are picked ripe and frozen quickly, and they cost far less in February. Any berry works: strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Rotating them through the week is better than staying loyal to one. Keep walnuts in the refrigerator or the freezer because those same fragile fats go rancid at room temperature. Now step back and look at the six together because they are not six separate errands. Red bell peppers, salmon or sardines, eggs, cooked tomatoes with olive oil, plain yogurt, and berries with walnuts. 6 foods, and underneath them only 3 mechanisms doing all the work. The first is raw material. Peppers, berries, fish, eggs, and yogurt keep appearing because between them they carry the amino acids and the vitamin C that normal collagen formation depends on. Protein without vitamin C is bricks with no mortar. Vitamin C with no protein is mortar with nothing to hold together. That is why these keep showing up in pairs on this list rather than alone. The second is fat, and fat has 2 separate jobs here. The omega-3 fats from fish and the ALA from walnuts become part of cell membranes. The monounsaturated fat in olive oil acts as the carrier that gets fat-soluble carotenoids out of the tomato and into you. A fat-free plate does not just taste like cardboard. It leaves a share of the plant compounds sitting on the plate. The third is water and variety. Yogurt and fruit both arrive carrying water inside them. Differently colored plants carry different compounds, and no single one of them is the answer by itself. Watch how they stack. Breakfast, 2 eggs, sliced red pepper on the side, a cup of plain yogurt with berries and walnuts. That is 4 of the 6 before 9 in the morning, and it took under 10 minutes. Then dinner twice a week, salmon or a tin of sardines with pasta, warmed tomato sauce, and a spoon of olive oil. That is the other 2. And now the fat in the oil is doing the carrying work for the lycopene while the fish supplies protein and omega-3s. You are not eating 6 things. You are eating 2 meals that happen to overlap on purpose. And notice what is absent from all of it. No supplement, no powder, nothing ordered from a website, nothing that asks you to believe anything unusual. Ordinary groceries arranged so the parts arrive together. If it helps, write the 6 inside a cupboard door: peppers, fish, eggs, tomatoes, yogurt, berries, and walnuts. A list on a door beats a list in your head, and it turns 6 foods into 1 shopping trip. Food is one lever. It is not the only one, and it would be dishonest to end without the rest. Sunlight is the single largest external factor in how skin ages, and cumulative exposure across decades does more visible work than any diet. The American Academy of Dermatology's guidance is unchanged: shade, clothing, and a broad-spectrum SPF 30 or higher applied to the face, ears, neck, and the backs of the hands, the places people forget. Smoking accelerates skin aging. The National Institute on Aging says so plainly. Long, hot showers strip the oils that thinning skin already produces less of, so keep the water lukewarm and the shower short, and apply moisturizer within a few minutes of stepping out while skin is still damp. Dry winter air pulls water out of a thinning barrier, so a humidifier in the bedroom earns its keep. Drink to thirst across the day rather than all at once. And if a medication you take lists dry skin among its side effects, that is worth raising at your next appointment rather than sorting out on your own. There are 2 simple checks you can do at home this week. Neither one diagnoses anything. They only tell you what is worth bringing to an appointment. First, look at the backs of your hands under good light. Gently pinch the skin, release it, and simply notice. Do this once a month, not once a day. It is an observation of change over time, nothing more, and it shifts with hydration, temperature, and medications. Second, once a month, look yourself over in a full-length mirror, including the scalp, the soles of the feet, and between the toes. The American Academy of Dermatology teaches the letters A, B, C, D, and E, asymmetry, an irregular border, uneven color, a diameter larger than a pencil eraser, and anything evolving or changing. Anything that itches, bleeds, or has not healed within a few weeks goes to your clinician. And the honest caveat about advice: it flips. Everything I have said assumes you are generally well and eating a general diet. The moment a diagnosis enters the picture, the instructions change, and they should. I want to say something that gets said too rarely to people over 60. It is not too late for any of this. Skin renews its outer layer on a cycle measured in weeks, and every one of those cycles gets built out of whatever showed up on your plate in the meantime. The next cycle has not been written yet. That is not a promise about wrinkles. It is a fact about maintenance, and maintenance responds to supply at 80 as surely as it does at 40. If you know someone who has been quietly hiding the backs of their hands, or who told you their skin has gone papery and assumed that was simply their lot, share this video with them, not as a lecture, just as something a person who cares about them thought was worth 20 minutes. And one more time, because it matters more than anything else I have said. If you have kidney disease, a food allergy to fish, eggs, nuts, or dairy, if you take a blood thinner, if swallowing has become difficult, or if you are on a diet your care team prescribed, some of these 6 foods may not fit you, and the amounts may not either. Take this list to your own doctor or a registered dietitian and let them adjust it. Their instructions outrank mine every single time. Last thing. That code on your screen is the one for the free book, The 90-Year Blueprint. Scan it with your phone camera and the book, The 90-Year Blueprint, opens right up at no cost. My gift to you for spending this time with me. If the code is no longer on your screen, the link to the free book, The 90-Year Blueprint, is waiting in the description below. If this was worth your while, tap like and subscribe so the next program finds you. And leave me one more comment. Which of the 6 are you starting with? The peppers, the fish, the eggs, the tomatoes, the yogurt, or the berries and walnuts? I read every comment. Look after yourself, and I will see you in the next one.